Hey guys, what's good with you? Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's doing good. I've got a few things to share about this incredible weekend that I just had, and there's a lot of cool symbology and synchronicities that occurred. So I just wanted to share those and some of the insights that I got from them. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but we'll see. So this weekend I went to Denver to visit a friend of mine, and it was to celebrate my birthday, which was on Tuesday before that. And I didn't know that I didn't know that it was Friday the 13th. I didn't know that there was going to be a Blood Moon Eclipse on Sunday. If you didn't see it, woo! I won't say you missed out, but man, it was beautiful to watch the eclipse. And that it was a clear, full-on eclipse. I've seen solar eclipses sometimes, but it's like only a partial eclipse, and they're like, don't look at the sun. I mean, I can always look, I've always been able to look at the sun with no problems, and I still have 20/10 vision. But it wasn't like it's never been like a full eclipse like that before. Like, that was awesome. You literally see the shadow come up on the moon, and then at one point the moon looked like it was a pearl. It was like glossy and shiny, like all around almost. Oh, it was so awesome. And there was a lot of like symbology, for things that had been happening in my life and my friend's life also leading up to that weekend, that event. And that was like, for me, I've been doing a lot of research on spirituality and stuff, like I always do, because I'm just into that shit. And one thing that had been coming up commonly recently was the spiral of transformation, and its association with the number 13. And so I thought it was really interesting because I found the weekend to be very transformative. And it started on Friday the 13th. And Friday the 13th was in the month of my birth this year. So just so many things lining up as far as significance goes. And I didn't know, I didn't know it was Friday the 13th. I didn't even know it was a Blood Moon Eclipse or anything like that. And my buddy had been making a map in Fortnite that's like this sun and moon temple, which, like, I mean, there's so many things that happened. Like, from like the moment we started walking out to the park, to the lake, Sloan Lake, to go see the eclipse, was the time that the eclipse actually started. But in our part of the world, we weren't able to actually see it. So we didn't start walking until the time it actually started. And it almost felt like we were the eclipse, So whether or not, we really were, or it's just a representation of those archetypes within us, it was still extremely profound. I felt like I was the sun and he was the moon, and we had this interaction going on, and I felt like I needed to kind of back up a little bit and give him more space, because it's like he's coming through his own phase in his own pace. At the same time, it's almost like I was helping him speed things up too, and providing that transformation. But just for me, at least for my takeaway, was like this feeling like maybe I need to ease up a little bit on it, and like be more grounded, I suppose, or take better stock of where things actually are, right? And that's what the eclipse really helped to highlight for me, is like pure shadow, right? Shadow on the moon. You get to see your reflection very, very clearly and see exactly what's going on. So I thought that was really awesome. Like, even when we got back to the house, it was like we couldn't see the eclipse from the backyard, and I wanted to do a fire. And it's like, if we go light the fire, then we can't see the eclipse. So we're staying in the front yard and watching the eclipse. And I'm just thinking of this like dichotomy of like the house in the middle, or like the earth, and then the moon and the front porch, and the backyard and the sun and the fire that we were going to create. And like this whole interplay of the fire and the sun, the moon, and it was pretty awesome. So it was a great weekend. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for like all the stuff that happened. And then it's just like, you know, integrating all the information that I received. You know, it was clearly, you know, I gave a few examples, but it would happen over and over and over and over and over again. The eclipse happened in many, many different ways. I'll give you another example. I allowed him to pair his phone to my Bluetooth speaker. And then the next day, he played something on his phone or something like that, and it caused the music that I was playing to stop because both of our phones were paired to it. And we're like, oh yeah, we paired our phones last night. We have to unpair now. It's like, there's the eclipse, right? The sun and the moon were both sharing that connection, and then they move on, right? But it's a good snapshot in that moment to see some of the fundamental aspects of creation at play in slow motion. It's pretty sweet. And it got me thinking about the yin-yang symbol. And I drew this little diagram. You might not be able to see it. It's a rudimentary diagram, obviously. But it's a good expression of the toroidal field. And I was thinking of, if you're in the center of that toroidal field and energy's flowing in one direction, as you observe that energy going away from you, it'll look black. Sort of like red shift and blue shift for those of you that are familiar with astronomy. I almost said astrology. In astronomy, they learn about red shift and blue shift, and that's what they use to determine how far away certain stars are, et cetera, based on the standard candle of supernovas, which may not be an actual accurate thing to use, but that's something that they use. And so I was thinking of, you know, if you look down, then all the energy is coming into you in the toroidal field, right? If you're the center point. And so when you look down, you would see the white dot. And so it's just a way of reinterpreting the yin-yang symbol in terms of a toroidal field around your body where your heart's the center. And depending on your perspective of that flow, you will have a different experience of that flow. And I just thought that was really interesting to like think of like a portal, so to speak, where you can pass through the portal, and when you look back on this side, it's white white here, but then it's black everywhere else, and then you look on the other side and it's black here, or sorry. If you're in the white space, you look down and you see the black dot, right, in the yin yang. But as soon as you pass through that, now it's suddenly a white dot, and then everything else around you is black. So I thought it was really interesting to have such a stark contrast in your experience, and to feel really what that felt like, to feel like the sun seeing the moon, you know, especially with the interactions I was having with my friend. You know, I would say certain things and I would get different responses sometimes, and it'd be like, whoa, what's that? But also being in tune with my energy, I could feel what was going on inside of me. It was like the eclipse, and I was just like, oh, that's really interesting, you know? So maybe think about, you know, places in your life where you may be avoiding the shadows and not understanding why you're not getting the results that you're looking for, because perhaps there are things that you've maybe swept under the rug that you may be unconscious of that could be having a bigger impact than you may be aware of. And when you begin to look into that, you can then liberate that energy in an authentic way when you really, really look completely into it. And that's what I find is the power of the eclipse. Another interesting thing is the 13 and the transformation, the spiral of transformation in tarot. 13 is the death card. I found that very interesting. Now, I don't really fear death at this point in my life. Many times I've welcomed it. But just thinking of death as transformation. I found is very, very useful way to look at it. You know, you simply changing one thing from one thing to another, and without death, change is not possible. And without change, there's no awareness, there's no perception, because there's nothing different to be aware of. So from that perspective, you begin to see life and death as two sides of the same coin, two sides of the yin yang. And you know, the symbology and connections can just go on and on and on. So I think I'll just leave it at that for now. Another thing I want to talk about is being a novice and how that relates to this whole experience, but I think that may be a video for tomorrow. So thanks guys, and I hope you enjoyed this little bit of sharing about the Blood Moon Eclipse.